Oh, hi, everybody. It is time. I just got back from the party. I stopped in, so now I'm going to get this thing on so that I can talk to you and you can hear me. Let's just see. Sounds like a lot of noise out there. Can you guys keep it down, please? All right. So, welcome to day 10, where I'm going to talk to you more about tips and strategies so that you can stick to your weight loss plan and reach your goal and then stay there. I'm Pat Beaupre Becker, certified weight and life coach, and I'm really excited to be here because one of the big problems or difficulties we have when we are trying to lose weight, get to a goal, and then stick there is a party, or it's a wedding, or it's a funeral, right? Something comes up, the holidays come up, and we just can't even imagine that we can successfully stick to our plan. And many times we just kind of plan to just kind of gain weight between now and the end of the year. So I want you to know that when you think like that, you're kind of allowing your limbic brain, which is your brain that is the less evolved portion, the one that just kind of reacts, right? It's the fight, flee, or freeze part of our brain. And we end up forgetting that we have a prefrontal cortex, as we've been calling it, the CEO, the part of our brain that helps us to stay in charge and to make choices because we want to and because we plan them. So one of the things that I know that comes up during these big events, holiday, family events, is kind of there's these patterns, right? Emotional patterns that we get stuck in. And let's say even if it is at a funeral where you're grieving and then you're also annoyed at people, or these people, as you say, push your buttons. So there are many things that I also think that sometimes I think the initial when we're going to overeat or choose not to eat, sometimes, as we talked about before, it happens like maybe 4 to 6 hours before. The cues are already starting to happen. In the back of your mind, you're already deciding, I can't stick to this plan. This is crazy. I just want to have a Dorito, or I just want to have, a holiday cookie, whatever it is, these little things that creep into your mind. And then by the time you get to where you are faced with someone handing you that treat, boom, it's done and you're eating it. So we're going to put a bunch of these tools together today, and I'm really excited because I think this is really important. So I hope that you will take the time to listen and to take notes, and I'll also post something in Facebook, as I've been doing, and I'll give you the questions in writing so that you can follow through on them. So I also want to let you know, I told you that I was going to be doing a Facebook Live, and it appears that Facebook doesn't like my business, and they don't want me to, they're not allowing me to put any ads in. So I'm going to rely on you to help me spread the word for a webinar that I'm going to be doing on October 30th at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. And so I really will, I'll create an event, and I'm going to ask all of you to share it with your friends and to see if we can get enough momentum, despite the fact that Facebook is not going to allow me to create advertising. So with that, I'll come back to that at the end, and I'll also do another Facebook about that, Facebook Live. So let's just imagine that we know that there's an event coming. Let's say it's Thanksgiving, right? Thanksgiving, it's a holiday. You've been through, if you're 60 years old, or, you've been through many, many, many Thanksgivings, and at least 60 of them. And if that's a holiday that your family, and if it's not a holiday that your family celebrates, just imagine any event that is, that you have experienced in your life where you went off your plan, where you threw in the towel, as they say, where you decided, I just can't do this. I'm not capable of losing weight. I can't stick to this plan. It's impossible. Any event where it was kind of the trigger for you to lose your ability, it appears to lose your ability to stick with your willpower or with your desire to lose weight. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we know again that this is going to be stressful. We are going to make a decision right now that when that event comes, we are going to plan for it. We're going to anticipate that it's going to be difficult. We're going to look at our history and understand what has happened before, and we're going to plan for those obstacles. So the first thing you do is you get a piece of paper, and on the top of the paper you write down what's the name of the event. So let's say Thanksgiving dinner. Then you want to write down who's going to be there. And so if it's your mother, your father, your sisters, if your parents are gone, and then maybe it's friends, whoever is going to be at the event, and especially those who you maybe have a little bit of a difficulty in communicating with. And so quite often, maybe you get, as they say, triggered by being around this person. So the one thing I'm going to ask you is, so what do you think is going to be challenging about this event? Maybe it's the kind of food that they're going to be cooking. Maybe there's a special kind of food that calls your name, and when you're around it, you seem to not be able to focus on anything else. Let's say it's a dessert, or even maybe it's even a turkey. Maybe you love turkey, and that whenever you get around a turkey, you tend to overeat it. At least that's been your history. So whatever is the challenging thing about that event, you write it down. Okay, and then I want you to consider what happened last Thanksgiving. What happened that caused you not to eat what you plan to eat? Because the wonderful thing about, for me, Thanksgiving dinner is that most people are going to eat all the foods that I eat. Maybe just they're going to have more quantities, but most of the food that that is served during that kind of a dinner is the food on my plan, so I'm actually not too challenged by it. But I have to say, there was the past when I used to host a Thanksgiving. I still host it, but I used to get all these desserts, right? And I was like, I would go to my favorite place to get all these desserts for other people. But of course, when the dessert was out on the table, I couldn't wait for everybody to leave because I wanted to eat that leftover cake. And then I'd start and have one little slice and clean up a little bit, and then have another little slice and clean up a little bit. So for me, if there was that kind of dessert, that would be my challenge, right? Because that in the past has been the thing that I have not been able to actually to achieve success when that's around. Let me just move that. So okay, so what do you want? The other thing to think about, so what do you want to happen at this event? How do you want to behave, right? How can you imagine yourself being like the best version of yourself? So for me, it would be, I just want to eat food. I want to really connect with people, talk about what's going on in their lives, and not really be food focused at all. And if I was able to do that and to really learn and listen to other people, what was going on in their life, that would be a really great outcome for me. So that's how I want to think about myself behaving, right? Not focusing on food, but focusing on the people that are at this dinner with me. But at the same time, you know that there's going to be a moment in time when these old thoughts are going to come, or these old habits are going to come up, and maybe I'm going to say, oh, maybe just one little piece of that cake won't be bad. Maybe I'll just have one piece. And so what am I going to say to myself, right? I know what I'm going to say to myself about that piece of cake. And so how am I going to respond to that? How is my plan going to include the fact that I know that thought is going to come into my mind and I'm going to want to eat that cake, even though I'm already saying to you right now that's not what I want to do. So what happens is, in that moment when I'm seeing that food, if I'm having an urge, all of a sudden, again, my prefrontal cortex is it's kind of stepping to the side, and my limbic system, I may be getting dopamine hit thinking about the past of what that food was, right? So I really want to remember that I am in charge, and what can I do in that moment to make it a different outcome than what happened the last time when I gave up on my plan. Okay, so the thing is, so we create a specific plan. So the first thing I would plan for is food. So I always want to know what is being served. Like, let's say I'm going to go to someone's home. If they're only serving like pasta, then it's going to be difficult for me to have something to eat. So I would usually make a call and find out what's being served at the meal. And if it's only going to be pasta, I might say, do you mind if I bring something along as well to share? And so maybe I would bring a cheese plate, right? So I can have cheese, and then I know there's going to be a salad, and I can have cheese, a salad, and then if there's no vegetable, I could even say, how about if I bring a vegetable, right? So you want to, if you don't know the folks as well and you don't feel comfortable asking them to cook something for you, you can suggest that you bring something along. Another option you could create in your plan would be perhaps to eat beforehand and then just maybe show up, and while people are eating, you could just let them know that you actually, you ate before, and you can have a nice drink. You can have your drink of water and you could just sip it. So other people are eating, you just want to, engage in the conversation. That's been done, and someone traveling sometimes, and they've already eaten, they show up, and we don't make a big deal about it. We just kind of make the plan. But you want to get the sense of what's going to work for you, right? Some people, it might be to just make sure the food is there. For some people, they prefer to eat before the meal. So it really just depends on your own comfort level and what you know is going to be successful. The other thing you could do is you could say, okay, I have this eating protocol, this eating plan, but I'm going to make an exception. I'm going to show up and I'm going to eat whatever food is offered me. I'm just going to eat kind of the portions of which I'm already planning to eat. So I will eat whatever it is that's offered, and I will just be reasonable about the amount of food that I'm going to eat, but I am just going to make an exception to my plan, and maybe I will have pasta tonight. I will have to pay the consequences of that, but I'm willing to do that because that's what I want to do. So you get to choose whatever this plan is, right? Whatever works for you is the purpose of this, is because it works for you. So the other thing you want to think about is your emotions. So if this is a highly charged situation, let's say, I know there are many holidays when somebody passes, or just family tensions that occur. And when we're around certain people, we know our emotions are going to be charged, right? You're going to get angry. Maybe you're going to feel sad. So you can actually think about it like, what are the possible things that could happen during your interaction with these people? Very likely we repeat similar interactions over and over and over again, right? I mean, that's kind of the beauty of making a plan, is you already have so much information about yourself and about what you've done in the past. So this is where you take that information and you actually use it, right? Get a little smart about it. So the thing you could do is you can say to yourself, okay, if I start to feel angry, I'm going to take deep breaths. I'm going to, just try and take a step back and observe what it is that I'm feeling. I can notice what's going on in my chest. I could actually really just figure out what's happening in that moment. I could put my feet on the ground. Sometimes, rubbing your hands together like this, it kind of keeps you grounded. So you can figure out and practice in advance the kinds of things that you can do if you know you're going to be emotionally charged. And then the thing that you do is, so let's say you create a grounding. So let's say you get knocked off whack, you're feeling a little bit angry or a little bit sad or upset. So you want to have a plan to go ground yourself, okay? And we're going to talk about stress tomorrow night. But for tonight, I want you to think about, how do you ground yourself? So you're at this event. Let's say you can go into the bathroom and take deep breaths, right? You can, I love, as I shared yesterday, I have essential oils. Maybe you can put a little essential oil, take a deep breath, and just kind of breathe, relax. So you really want to take care of yourself. Step out of the situation, put a little space between you and the people, and notice that you're just having some vibrations in your body. And maybe you could go for a walk. You could step outside, go for a walk. Maybe you could grab someone who you like and have them go for a walk, but not to necessarily talk about what's going on, right? You're not there to start gossiping or hashing out what's going on. More, the purpose is for you to take a step back and to observe yourself. Very different than the way we handle conflicting emotions probably. Maybe you don't, but many times we just want to talk it out and we really want to get justified. We want to blame somebody. We want someone to be on our side. And that doesn't help us to calm our emotions and to see the situation in a way that's helpful. Remember, your goal, what you said, I want to have, well, maybe we didn't say it, but in the beginning I said what I want to have at this event is I want to connect with people. I want to find out about people. I want to have a good time, right? Like that's part of the holiday, is to really have a good time with friends. So having this grounding exercise or this grounding plan, that would be really fantastic. And one of the other things that I know was this idea came from my coach, Brooke Castillo. So she said, write yourself a message. And I love this idea. I was watching The Good Place on TV, and there's this scene where these folks get their minds wiped out, but she writes a note really quickly and she sticks it somewhere so she gets it again. And so she opens this note and she doesn't even know what it is, but it's for her brain to be reminded of something, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to create a message to ourselves. And I want you to just kind of talk to yourself, right? So you just kind of write. You could just say, what's the message? I'm going to say, dear Pat, I know you're upset. I know that you're feeling emotional, but you knew that was going to happen. And you knew you wanted to do it differently, and that's okay. So why don't we just take a breath? People are just speaking words. Words don't matter. Like it's fine. I just have to reconnect with yourself. Remember, you want to have a good time, and let's just do this. Food is, remember the last time you ate that food and all that cake, you felt like crap the next day. And it didn't solve any problems. It didn't there was no solution to the relationship or anything. So come on, Pat, let's just do this differently today. I got your back. Let's go have a good time. So that would be the message. And so you go and actually wrote this message. So you would take a message, you would write it on a piece of paper, and your message would be, so here I got, hey, I'm so glad we planned for you to think that eating and freaking out is your only alternative. You got this. Breathe and enjoy these crazy people. So I would read this note, and that would be, and I could read it a bunch of times, and that would be the way that I would plan to manage my emotions during this event. So that is the idea. And now the next step, so we talked about visualization the other day, and so partly what we're going to do is we're going to actually rehearse this. Okay, so you have this plan, you wrote it out, and so what we want to do is actually see yourself. Remember, visualization and rehearsal, it gives your body, your mind and your body the idea or the evidence of something that already happened, right? So you create the situation where you're in your mind, you're imagining yourself by feeling yourself going through this event and how you respond differently at each moment during the event. So you can close your eyes, and this is a good way to visualize yourself. So let's just imagine you are actually getting dressed for this event. Let's imagine you decide to read your note again. You look at your plan. You have your plan of action. You look at your note and you read it. It's kind of funny. So you enjoy yourself reading. You see yourself reading it. So then you imagine yourself arriving at the event, and you can see yourself being greeted by someone. Maybe it's the person who irritates you. Maybe it's the person you love to see. Maybe it's just a really good friend. And so you imagine yourself greeting them. And then, then you walk in and there is a challenging person and they greet you. And so you greet them. How do you want to think about that? Maybe you want to take some breaths, right? And then your favorite food, maybe it's this food that for you is maybe a trigger or something that you have eaten a lot of in the past. Maybe they offer it to you. So imagining yourself looking at the food, you can see it, you can smell it, but you're not going to eat it. So you just say, no, thank you, and then off you go. So in your visioning yourself, you see yourself turning the food away. Maybe you reach and you grab some water or some club soda and you drink it, okay? And then what happens is someone else comes by and asks you, well, come on, have some food. Are you sure you don't want to eat anything? Is everything okay? And so imagine that you have at least 5 people are going to come up to you and say the same thing. And so 5 times, as if you heard it for the first time, you're going to say, no, thank you. That's really great. I'm looking forward to dinner. I don't want to ruin my appetite. Or no, thank you. I'm good. I'm just having some soda, whatever. So imagine yourself seeing yourself over and over again, taking this offer and just gratefully and graciously turning it down. Okay. Then I want you to imagine that there are people and they're all just talking and words are coming out of their mouth. So the words are just words. There's nothing that can hurt you. There's nothing that could affect you. People are just talking and words are just coming out of their mouth. And then you could imagine the people are getting drunk. Maybe there's a lot of drinking going on and now people are drunk and now but still it's just people with talking with words coming out of their mouth. There's nothing that they say can actually hurt you or affect you. They are just human beings talking with words coming out of their mouth. And you're just a human being with ears listening to the words that are coming out of their mouth. And there's no charge there at all. So that would be one way, so you can see yourself doing that. And then you want to see yourself smiling and you're having a good time, and you sit down to dinner and you just eat the food that you plan to eat. And you see yourself finishing that dinner, perhaps having another glass of water. If people are having dessert and you don't want to be in the room, perhaps you can get out and go take a walk. Remember when the old days when people would smoke after dinner, you could just go outside and take a walk. Bet you could find someone to walk with you. So imagine yourself going outside and taking a little walk, breathing in the fresh air, digesting your food, and then you go back to the party and imagine yourself saying goodbye to everyone and going home, and imagine getting ready for bed and feeling really good in your body because you have actually used your prefrontal cortex. The CEO was in charge and you have achieved what you wanted to achieve. So that's the visualization you do before the event happens. If you could do it more than once, that's even better. You know, when people are giving talks, that many times we practice, right? So this is the practice that's going to not trick our brain, but our brain is actually going to be familiar with all of these obstacles once you get to the event because you've already rehearsed it. So then let's just say you have go to the event and Thanksgiving comes and you show up and you do all the rehearsal, you do all the planning, and then you want to come home, you want to evaluate it. Did it work? Maybe it didn't even work. But if it did work, what part of it worked? Like maybe there were parts of it that worked and parts of it that didn't work. So it's your job to evaluate that plan and see if there's a way you could tweak it. So the next event, which would be Christmas or New Year's or Hanukkah, right? You have another event, or maybe it's just a holiday party coming up. And now you have another opportunity to create a plan, to practice and rehearse that plan and evaluate that plan. So how good do you think you're going to get at this if you do this for the next holiday season that includes like 5 parties? You're going to get really good at it, or you're going to understand or see what it is that is not allowing you to choose the things you want to choose. Maybe it's a thought, maybe it's a feeling, something will come up, but you're going to get so much information about yourself. So that's my tricks and tips and strategy for today is to plan for challenging events, holiday dinners, Hanukkah, New Year's, any of the events that will be repeated and that you perhaps in the past have used to blown your goal and therefore never reached your goal weight, and then you kind of gave up and decided that it wasn't going to work for you. So that's it. And the second part of today I want to talk about, and I didn't bring my my day 10 little thing, unfortunately. And so I wanted to talk about meals. So, you know, we have these holiday meals. Many times they're traditional meals. And I want to tell you that you could actually create meals in a healthy way, no matter what your tradition is, right? So like if you think about Thanksgiving, for me, if you're a vegan, well, obviously you have other things. Maybe you're doing lentils or beans. But for me, we have a turkey. And so turkey is protein. That's part of what I eat. I just actually sneak away and before everybody sits down, and I just weigh out my 4 little ounces of turkey. And then we'll have a vegetable always. We'll have some sweet potatoes, and we'll always have a salad. So plenty for me to eat that is exactly on my protocol. And so when I do that, and if I've practiced my event planning, then I'm going to have plenty food for me to eat that's going to be satisfying, and that's not going to it's not going to I don't like when I feel stuffed and overstuffed like I used to feel, and when I'm really so unconscious of people, and I just start focusing on food. So for me, that is not something that I like to do. I don't like the way it feels. So that's why it's a little bit easier for me now after practicing this for 5 and then another 5 years. I really have had no trouble with Thanksgiving once I decided that flour and sugar were out of my plan, because I don't really want them anymore. So I was looking at, so like a Christmas dinner, you could make a beef, some kind of beef, and then vegetables, roasted vegetables. Again, you could do potatoes, roasted sweet potatoes, and then a nice salad. So there's plenty of healthy food that you can create a Christmas meal for as well. And then Hanukkah, I know that there's a braised brisket that you could make, and you can make it without flour so that the gravy doesn't have flour in it. You can make a nice mushroom sauce that has maybe mushrooms and well, however you would make a mushroom sauce, but depending on whether it's kosher or not, obviously you wouldn't use dairy, so you would have to figure that out. But you can easily find recipes online where you can create traditional meals, and you can create them with the right healthy ingredients that will allow you to consistently just eat for health, eat for nutrition, and enjoy people's company, but not have it be about all of the foods, the traditional foods that perhaps aren't necessarily going to help you make you healthy, right? They're not going to keep you living long enough to enjoy another holiday. I found a nice recipe that was baked potato and parsnip latkes and a homemade applesauce without sugar. So you can create meals, holiday meals that include healthy foods, have a little bit of tradition, and if you have folks coming to your house, and if you're preparing the meal, believe me, they're going to eat whatever it is you prepare, and if they're not happy about it, well, that's okay. They can express themselves, or they could go home and make their own little latkes. So anyway, I just want to let you know that I hope that these tips and strategies are going to set you up for the holiday season. And that's why I'm doing this webinar. So on October 30th, I'm going to do a webinar on how to stick to your program, how to lose weight, and get through those holidays and stick to your plan no matter what, even if you're over 60 years old. It doesn't matter how old you are. Obviously, the older we are, the longer we've practiced habits. But we also are pretty damn smart, and we know what we want, and we're willing to go for it because we don't really have to put up with a lot of stuff. So I want you to come to that webinar October 30th. I'll put the link in the link. I'll put the link below, and I will post all of the questions that I did today, so you can create your own protocol, your own plan for the next challenging event. So share this with your friends. Again, remember, Facebook for some reason does not like my business model, and so if you can share this as much as possible, it would really be fantastic. The more women and men who are suffering because they think that they cannot change, they cannot stick to a plan, I want to help them. I want to give them these tools so that they can get over it and get to the next thing, which is to live a fulfilling and joyful life, and to enjoy their family or their friends, or even just travel, whatever it is that they're going to enjoy. So thanks again, and I'll see you tomorrow.